2 player not in the Hall of Fame, Jim Marshall.
Jim Marshall, you wonder why it's taken so long.
I think Jim Marshall is one of the great overlooked names.
This was the Iron Man of pro football.
Come on, baby, let it all hang out now.
Nobody has done what Jim Marshall did. The durability, the endurance, to play defensive end for 20 seasons, for 282 consecutive games.
Hey, come on, baby, come on, let's have a nice clean one, okay?
I gave my absolute best. It's kind of like an airplane. You better keep your engines going, or you're going to fall and crash.
Our number 2 player's Hall candidacy has been in free fall since he retired, even though 2 of his fellow defensive line mates have landed softly in Canton.
When you think of the Purple People Eaters, you cannot talk about Alan Page and Carl Eller and leave out Jim Marshall.
We can't afford to have that, see?
He was just as good as Carl Eller, no question about it.
Jim Marshall, the Eller, the Page. The problem I have with the Hall of Fame for any of those Minnesota Vikings defensive linemen is every time I saw them in big games against the AFC, in Super Bowls, Chiefs, Miami, Pittsburgh, Raiders, they could not do a thing in a game.
They look like they're flat as hell.
Jim Marshall was undersized. People knew they could run right at him. I know that was the game plan of us. It was a game plan of Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh's forward wall dominated the line of scrimmage.
It was a game plan of Oakland.
Shell was so overpowering that Marshall did not make a tackle the whole game.
So as a result, I would not put Marshall in the Hall of Fame.
I think there is still an image problem related to the wrong way play.
Kilmer driving for the first down, loses the football. It's picked up by Jim Marshall, who's running the wrong way.
He ran a fumble back the wrong way, 60 or 70 yards in a game against the San Francisco 49ers.
And he's running it into the end zone the wrong way, thinks he scored a touchdown.
People remember that fumble return.
Wrong way.
To see that replayed over
Wrong way.
and over
Wrong way.
and over.
Thinks he scored a touchdown.
It's painful to watch.
If you had to pay me residuals every time you showed that play, I'd never have to work again.
It does overshadow his otherwise fine career.
If he gets a bad shake because of his wrong way run, people should reconsider that, because I think that only bolsters his credentials. It's one of the great moments in NFL history. It happened because he recovered a fumble, of which he recovered 29 opponents' fumbles in the course of his career. It's still a record.
That was one play in his career. A career is not one play, and a Hall of Fame election is not based on one play.
No player in the history of the game ever played harder, longer than Jim Marshall.
He's basically football's version of Cal Ripken. 20 years without missing a game. In that position on the defensive line, Marshall should be in the Hall of Fame.
To play 282 consecutive games is an amazing feat. Is it something that should be acknowledged? Absolutely. For that, you take Jim Marshall's uniform and you put it in the Hall of Fame.
I do think Jim Marshall belongs in the Hall of Fame. He played on one of the great teams of his time, and one of the great front fours of any time.
I think Jim Marshall eventually will be in the Hall of Fame, and I think his time is coming very shortly here.